Hello everyone! This video is a detailed workflow of my latest environment project. Some of the highlights of this video will be about making some complex procedural terrain texture, and procedural rock stairs, and some modeling techniques for different parts and pieces. I was always fascinated in old Chinese architecture, so I wanted to make a scene where I feel a person can reach a peaceful state of mind, something that I can really enjoy working on and feel attached to it. I start always by blocking down the scene and setting up the camera to get the composition I'm aiming for. I'll take advantage of the fact that the building is symmetrical on two axes, so I only have to model 1/4 of it. Back in college where I studied architecture, professors would criticize symmetrical designs, saying it's too lazy to do, but I disagree. I find it to be really satisfying and calm to look at, especially for the intended purpose of the scene. I start creating the first part of the building with a new box, because I want the first box to be just a mirroring object. As you can see, even the wooden details on the building are symmetrical, so that's gonna be a huge time saver down the road. I'll draw the details with edge loops, then extrude them out. I'll create the windows in the same way. New box, put a mirror modifier on top of it, and then some edge loops and extrusions. For the supporting details under the window, I'm adding a bevel to a plane with a custom profile. The top of the window is just a plane with extruded layers, cause I want the window to have like 3 layers and extrude each layer more than the one before it. The roof is the most interesting part to make, cause it looks hard, but I already know how to approach it, cause I made something similar in the past. Actually, the whole purpose of why I do personal projects is simply to get better, cause when you do things you're passionate about, and when you don't have a deadline to meet, you're gonna pay more attention to details. Now I'm just trying to figure out the general shape I want for the roof, to be shown well from all angles, especially from the perspective of the camera. I added another plane on top of the original plane, cause I need a different mesh flow for the lines on the roof. This way I can get even spaces between the lines, and to reshape it to the roof I worked on, I will add a shrink wrap modifier. I copy the edges I just made and convert them to curves, and then set the spline type to NURBS. Then go to the object data, and from the geometry tab add depth to the bevel, and that's basically it. I add thinner horizontal line as well, to add diverse and more details and complexity. I wanna add wooden bars underneath the roof. That's why I'm adding a lot of edge loops that I'm gonna bevel and then delete. So when I add solidify to it, it looks like wooden bars. The arc on the top front was really important to look good, because your eyes will be drawn to look at it, due to the composition, so I added a lot of modeled and textured details. I start with half a cylinder and edited the edges of it to get the desired look. I added subdivision modifier and edge crease to the edges to sharpen them again. I repeat the process of creating the lines for this part of the roof as well, to keep the same theme intact. I copied the roof to make another level of the building. I was afraid of it to look repetitive, but the offset made it fine. Made another level to the wooden bars and added variety to the length of the bars to look more natural. I added another cylinder to shape the details on the top, then added some modifiers including solidify to get the desired look. I added some more simple details to the entrance. The stairs were actually very interesting to work on. I needed an easy way to do it. I didn't want to spend forever sculpting it, and I didn't want to use any pre-made assets. So at first, at the entrance, I used bevel with a step profile, and it worked fine. But the rest of the stairs were a bit more complicated. So I used a combination of modifiers that worked like magic. I used solidify and a couple of remesh modifiers, one set to blocked and the other set to sharp. Then I added displacement to it to add variety, but I kept the effect subtle. If you're not very into environments and more into characters, make sure to subscribe, because in the next video I'm gonna share with you the process of how I made this robot character. For the rocks and the mountains, I knew that I have to sculpt them to make it look more appealing. No procedural way was gonna cut it in Blender at least. I started blocking the shape with normal modeling techniques. At first I was nervous. I never sculpted rocks before. But it wasn't that hard. There's no anatomy to learn or restrictions to make. Just add strokes the way you feel like it and hope for the good. And the very good advice would be to look at a lot of references. That will definitely help. I added some modifiers like remesh and subdivisions to add complicity to the mountains. I started experimenting with the brushes and found out that clay strips and draw sharp are really good for doing rocks. I added multi-raise modifier and continued sculpting on it. Most of the small details was covered by the material and the rocks. But it was really fun working on, and I was really proud the way it turned out. That's the important part. The creation journey is what counts, not only the final rendered image. Every project has a story, and a part of the story is hidden in the creation of it. I added some flags and animated them with some wind, to make the scene feel more alive. And added some curtains that I made with a cloth plane and a collagen object. I added some donuts as well, because every good Blender tutorial should have donuts. For the materials, I added some colors to the roof and picked some PBR texture that I thought fits the scene. The sculpted rocks was so high poly that I had to bake them to a normal map on a low poly model, because I don't want to run out of memory when I try to render it. After unwrapping and the baking, the two objects looked identical. Now I can work again on the materials and add details and style to it. I wasn't aiming for realism specifically, knowing that it will be time consuming to go after. I wanted the finished result to look peaceful and detailed, but yet somehow organized, and realism for me is more towards chaotic. So at first I separated Z channel to have a grass material on it, and color corrected both the grass and the rocks. I used pointiness from the geometry node to add highlights and a gradient ramp mixed with some noise to make wet map. I covered the whole scene with a big box to add volumetrics to the scene. I played a lot with the color and the density until I made something that I'm satisfied with. I made some other materials to the remaining small objects that I made, and made some simple designs for the flags, and of course added my logo to make it more awesome. I added a wood material to the structure and added a couple of ambient occlusion nodes, the first to make some dirt and the other is to add some scratches. I unwrapped the arc to draw some decorations manually. And again drew my logo to make it again look a lot more awesome. After finishing, I added a golden material to the map, and I loved the result at the end. For the grass, I used Botanic add-on for the first time, and it was great because it tries to solve the density needed to the painted weight map. Most of the foreground trees were placed manually, but other trees in the background were scattered, just like the grass. I hope this video was helpful and you learned a thing or two. This is it for today. See ya.